Hello, hello. My name is Lochlan Watt, and music is my life. I thought I'd try mixing it up this week and going for a cold intro before hitting the theme music. Just got back a couple days ago from my annual trip to the amazing Dark Mofo Festival in Hobart, Tasmania. And that's where this week's conversation with Zachary Ezrin of New York City's Imperial Triumphant took place. Here's a little taste of that.
It's pretty authentic as opposed to my poser past as like a, corpse paint, Viking obsessed teenager, like this is something that I actually know about and I'm living it, but it's also dark. So it's still pretty metal, there's a lot of darkness in this city. It's a pretty fucked up city. I was like, all right, let's explore that,
A little taste of their latest album, Goldstar. Before I get into all of that, though, I've got a little bit of promotional housekeeping to do, as I'll actually be heading back down to Tasmania at the end of the month to play some shows with my band Run. We'll be opening for Make Them Suffer, Justice for the Damned, and The Gloom in the Corner on the tail end of their massive regional Australian tour. You can catch us at Forth on Saturday, June 28, and Hobart on Sunday, June 29, before doing some Victorian shows on Thursday, July 3 in Narre Warren and Friday, July 4 in Geelong. This year's been fairly quiet for Run on the live front, but it has been very busy behind the scenes, and I'll have more on that to share with you next week. In other Dark Mofo related gig news, I've just announced a trio of headline shows for the incredible black metal group from Portland, USA called Uada. After being forced to cancel their Dark Mofo appearance in 2023, they haven't played down here in 8 years, and you'll be able to catch them from September 17 to 21 in Brisbane, in Alice Springs at the previously announced Black and Open Air Festival, followed by Melbourne and Sydney. A killer death doom band from Brisbane called Malignant Aura will be following them around the country as well. The power trio that is Imperial Triumphant has technically been a band for 20 years, although Zach will tell you kind of otherwise, as you'll hear, but they didn't really catch my attention until signing to Century Media Records for 2020's Alphaville album. The band plays a blackened strain of avant-garde death metal that is incredibly special and attention-grabbing due to their rather visually striking masks and unique jazz influence. This was their first time touring Australia, and this chat was my first time meeting founding singer-guitarist Zach, also known by stage name Apollo, and I really enjoyed finding out more about what makes his band tick while sharing a few solid laughs. I actually always expected this band to be pretty staunch given the nature of their music, but the conversation was as surprisingly whimsical as their stage antics were the following night at their show. If you're enjoying what I'm doing here, I'm trying to build this thing organically, so it would really mean a lot to me if you could please like, follow, subscribe to, maybe even leave a comment and share the podcast with your friends. My name is Lochlan Watt, music is my life, and now I give you my conversation with Zachary Ezrin of Imperial Triumphant. Cheers. All right. Thanks for coming on board for this hodgepodge of weird technology and your
my little high chair.
Locked in.
I'm all locked in, ready to rock.
So Imperial Triumphant's first time in Australia, 2 shows in. How were they?
They were insane, man. Very, very, very good, great crowds, and just Sydney and Brisbane. But I think the big one is Dark Mofo.
Is Dark Mofo something that you were familiar with or had heard much about before this offer came through?
Well, this offer came through like a few times, and it just we were never able to make it work because of the touring schedule, and like usually we're in Europe in June is the problem, really. So we were never able to make it work. And then finally the stars aligned where we were able to make this work. And then also we got, interest to play in Asia. So we're like, okay, great. We can go, this is as far as you can get from New York City is Australia. So like, this is the furthest away we've ever been. And then we can still keep it moving and play the rest of the Eastern Asian world.
So you sacrificed festival season to go get some new experiences.
Yeah, fuck them.
You must have done Europe countless times at this point.
Dude, we've played Europe so much, and it's cool to go somewhere exotic, and yet they still speak English. You know?
Yeah.
That's crazy to be like so far, and then you're like, oh, you understand me? Great.
Just another colony on the other side of the world.
Dude, so far.
So it's you've been in a band for what, 20 years at this point?
I mean, sort of.
It sort of feels like it's not that old to me.
It's not. That's why. It's sort of like there's almost like two Imperial Triumphants. There's the one I started when I was a teenager in 2005, and it's a completely different band with different musicians. And then when I went to college or university, a bit of a hiatus. And then when I came back in 2012, that's kind of when I had a new lineup, kind of operating new sound, but operating under the same name.
Yep.
And then really what I consider the true Imperial Triumphant is 2015, because that's when I got the lineup that I have now, which was sort of like, okay, we're all fitting. Everyone's vibing, everyone's connected, and everyone's into it. It's not just, guys in the scene I've convinced to like play a few shows with me or record on an album. Like we're a band now, and I like that camaraderie. It's cool.
Yeah. So I guess sonically, it's pretty different. Visually, it seems to be like a sort of distinction between the eras. Why did you decide to keep the name?
I don't know, man. I think it was just like maybe I couldn't think of any other cool names. I don't know. It's kind of just, I don't even remember. I think I was just like so dead set on this, like, this is the band.
This is my band, and it's going to continue.
It's got to be a success. And I don't know. Yeah. It's wildly different from like the teenage years where we were just pretty much like an immortal rip-off band. And but that shit's pretty funny. We're just teenage posers running around this New York City, And but now it's got much more clearer vision, and it's a really I think as an artistic statement, Imperial Triumphant is something that's different, and I think nobody can take that away from us.
Yeah.
Whether you like us or not, at least we're doing something different.
So tell me about your background in music before Imperial Triumphant. You're just like a teenage black metal nerd.
Yeah. Like whatever you're imagining is exactly what it looked like and sounded like. Just obsessed with black metal, death metal, no interest in anything else, And that's kind of maybe the university hiatus is probably what opened my mind, to like a lot of modern classical and serialism and a lot of classical in general, and that sort of thing really pushed me to like be more open-minded and less of just like a sort of closed-minded black metal nerd. And then when I met my rhythm section that I have now, they were like pushing me even more, being like, what if we play a little jazzier, play with like a looseness and like a free improvise certain parts. And I think a lot of black metal in general or death metal, they want everything to parts. They want parts. They want things played perfectly. A lot of bands playing with tracks. Like you can't mess around when there's tracks or clicks or, it's got to fit in the spot. And so that pushed me to be out of my comfort zone. And that's not so ironic, not ironically, but that's not so coincidentally, that's when the band picked up. It's when we started making music together and combining all these ideas is when it seemed like people really started to get interested.
Yeah, so when it stood out and was like, this is actually something different and not just worshipping what's come before.
Exactly. And I think, I'm really happy with myself for letting go of a little creative control to be like, okay, you guys are also fantastic players. Like, let's see what you can come up with, and hopefully it'll be awesome. And that's sort of been like the ethos of Imperial ever since. We work with a lot of guest artists and stuff, and we rarely ever tell them what to play. We just say, you're a big talent. You understand what we're trying to do. Like, here's the song. Like, well, do your thing. And I like that. It seems very New York of us. And it is very similar in the jazz world, in the New York world of collaborating with musicians. And I like that.
So you're New York born and raised?
Born and raised in the city.
Yep.
City boy.
I've read somewhere that was like about how Imperial Triumphant was the sound of New York City. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, it's really, if you try to write the music like that, it's pretty easy. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's like, I don't know. You go to have you been in New York?
Very briefly.
It's pretty loud.
Yeah.
That's something I never never get not annoyed by, is like just trying to listen to music and it's just noise outside everywhere. And the sound of the city is so intense, and the energy of the city is intense, and yet everyone's hustling and grinding and running around. And then sometimes you'll get to the top of a skyscraper or somewhere in the park or somewhere, and it's just like dead quiet, or it's like everything's like far, and it's like so nice. I don't know. I think, there was a moment I was a hired gun in some band when I was like 22, and the manager of the band asked me about Imperial Triumphant. He said, "What's your band about?" And I was like, "I have no idea." I didn't have an answer, and I was so embarrassed. I was like, "What's my band about?" I've never even asked myself that question. And then I started thinking about it a lot. And then it's sort of, as I'm thinking, I'm walking around, I'm walking down, Billionaires Lane, which is what they call like 57th Street, Central Park South, like just super high, super expensive luxury apartments and hotels. And I'm noticing a lot of Art Deco, and I'm like, it's kind of cool. It's kind of different. It's kind of unique. And I'm like, maybe there's something there, So I started exploring that, and I'm starting to realize, like, okay, it's all New York based. I'm from New York, so it's pretty authentic, as opposed to my poser past as like a, corpse paint, Viking obsessed teenager, like this is something that I actually know about and I'm living it. And it seems, but it's also dark. So it's still pretty metal, there's a lot of darkness in this city. It's a pretty fucked up city. And I was like, all right, let's explore that, and then I'm still exploring.
Yeah, a couple of the albums, I guess, probably Alphaville and the most recent Goldstar. The artworks give me a bit of a Metropolis vibe.
Yeah, well, it is the same artist for both those covers, Zbigniew Bielak, and he's got this architectural background that's so perfectly matched for us, because sort of an architecture band. I'm an amateur architecture nerd, and I really. Yeah, that he just gets it, and he's really, really creative, and he's really on the same level as us when it comes to like vinyl packaging design and shit like that. We really obsess about, And I think so. He always comes in with these really amazing ideas, and it's really fun to work on stuff like that.
So, is there like a story that you were trying to tell through the artworks of all the records, or anything, or individually, or is
individually? Yeah, I think so. I mean, this last record, Goldstar, buy it now. It's very inspired by like vintage 50s, 60s, mid-century like cigarette advertisements, and so we put like in the middle of the song in the album, there's like a little cigarette jingle that I wrote it starts the B side, so it's promoting Goldstar cigarettes, so it's sort of like. Like our paid sponsor, where you like flip the vinyl and it's like, well, now you have to listen to the ad.
I was going to ask about that, and like I thought that might have been something that you dug up out of the past, but it's actually you made your own.
Yeah, I wrote it.
So Goldstar is what, like your own fictional cigarette company?
It's exactly what it is.
That's crazy.
It's exactly what it is. I was like, that'll be funny, and then we have like on the vinyl and the CD, there's like cigarette warning labels, like you might find in Europe or whatever, where there's like it says like warning, Imperial Triumphant, hazardous to your health, may kill you, whatever. Like it's that, and you have to like cut. There's like a little silver foil sticker on the vinyl, so you have to cut that. Like you're opening a fresh pack of death metal,
Are you a cigarette smoker yourself?
On tour I am.
Yep.
When I'm home, I don't, because I like to give myself a break.
Yep.
But on tour I don't really drink. It's a trade-off. I drink at home, don't smoke. On tour, smoke, don't drink. And it's but I get, bro, Australian cigarettes?
You don't want to be a smoker here.
Dude,
way too much
I bought
money.
a pack. It was the most expensive pack I've ever bought in my life.
Did it have those warnings on the filters?
Yeah,
There's new ones that
it didn't warn me about the price. Dude, I feel like I'm fucking John D. Rockefeller when I pull one of these out. I'm like, this is a fucking $2 puff right here.
Yeah.
It's crazy, bro.
There's a big booming black market for illegal imported
I've heard
cigarettes at the
What
moment.
do they call it? Like chim cham?
Chip chop.
Chip chop?
No, is it
Chop-
chop chop?
Chop chop.
Chim cham.
Chim cham. I don't know. You guys have crazy names for everything. Yeah. The chip chap. I heard about that, and I heard it's terrible tobacco.
Yeah, I think
But it's
pretty low
much
quality, but-
cheaper.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I made a mistake. What can you do? I thought it'd be cheaper here.
Yeah. You have a voice that sounds like a cigarette smoker's voice. All
Well,
deep,
it's
deep and
also
shit.
it's more the voice of a guy who's been doing hour-long
Screaming,
sets
yeah.
for 2 days after not. We haven't played in like maybe a month, and we started doing hour-longs. I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot about this. But yesterday I had the day off. Voice is rested. Drink a lot of water. Get a lot of rest. By tomorrow, when we play at the Hymns to the Dead, I'll be ready.
Yeah. So you were talking before about the strictness of death metal and tracks and all that sort of stuff. Are your shows a little bit more freeform?
We don't have any.
The songs don't have to necessarily fit to how they were recorded.
No, there's no click tracks. There's no, synchronizing or any of that shit. It's just 3 dudes on stage making it from scratch.
So you go on wild adventures with the songs sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. And I think I love that about it. If the vibe calls for it to be longer, or if someone makes a mistake, we can all slow down and catch them, pick him back up, or something like that. Or I don't know. We played one show and the crowd wanted an encore, and so we went out and played it. But then the band that played after us, the crowd wanted an encore, and they had tracks and like a click and everything was organized, and they were like, "Can't play an encore. We don't have any things set up." And I was like, "Sorry."
I was filling in for a band on a tour as vocalist once probably 8 years ago or something at this point, Psychroptic, and
I heard of them. They're cool.
yeah, they're a sick band, but then the laptop blew up one night, and then the backup laptop blew up, and so we could only play 4 or 5 songs or something.
Yeah, dude. And look, no shame if that.
That's
There's a
their
lot
thing,
of great bands that play with tracks or with a computer on stage. Like if that's how your band works best, and that's how the music's going to present best, for sure do that. But for Imperial, we like to keep it fast and loose, and that's really also, I will point out, that is the real jazz of Imperial. It's not that we put a horn on the album or whatever. Yeah. It's that we play like a jazz trio would play, which is feeding off of each other's energy. It's a conversation between 3 musicians. And it's less about playing parts and, that whole thing. At least to me it is.
So no 2 shows are ever the same.
No.
And you're talking about the lineup and finding the right people and everything, and the 2 versions of the band, being able to build that language between 3 people. You'd be in serious trouble, right, if you had to suddenly find a fill-in player for a tour, or
yeah, we did it once and it was not great.
Yep,
we had 3 dates to fill in with a different drummer, and it's just really hard. It's just not. The guy was doing his best, but it's just something about playing together, the same guys, 10 years, you get it, you know, like we know what the other ones are doing. And there's like, it's kind of interesting. You can really only communicate with your instrument.
Yeah, it's not something you can verbalize.
Well, especially when you have a mask on, you can't really talk. So it's really just like this sort of ancient form of communication, like just instruments.
I like that you've got your mask on a badge right
Oh,
there.
yeah, the little pin. That's like the pin that we give everyone who joins our Patreon. Join our Patreon, support the band. Yeah, it's like a little mask.
Yeah. So tell us about the original ideas and inspiration behind the masks and what they all represent, because you're Apollo, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's we all took like names of different gods to name the masks, and I think it's crazy. You know, I don't want to ruin it for anyone who's like, because film fans have like some crazy theories of like what they mean. But I mean, in my mind, it was like, okay, Apollo's a sun god, so like my mask kind of looks like a sun rays shooting out. But I don't know. I think Kenny pointed it out that it's like they all kind of fit our personalities pretty accurately, and I think there was maybe a subconscious decision, and in a kind of funny way, but yeah, they all kind of worked, and they all, I think, just give a character to this image. And I think for whatever reason, like this kind of music really, really benefits when there's a visual aspect to it, whether it's something as elaborate as us or Portal, or take a band like Ulcerate, which is more of like just leaning into like a cool light show and lighting design. Like that really, really helps the music, which is, again, it's a tough sell sometimes, this kind of shit. It's not easy.
Yeah. Portal is probably like one of the bands that if I had to sort of classify or describe Imperial Triumphant to someone else, Portal would be one of the first.
I mean, they're the sickest band in the
come
world.
to mind.
They're the coolest band of all time.
Like, was there an idea of, were you listening to Portal?
No. I was kind of, I mean, I don't know how they came about their music. I kind of got into this through modern classical music, which I studied. I have a classical composition degree.
Yep.
So I was just in college just studying classical music, and a lot of it is, 20th century modern stuff. And this stuff's disgusting. It's gnarly.
So as like a teenage black metal kid, then learning about classical music, somehow you get from there to just discordant death metal.
Yeah, well, you study the timeline of classical music where it starts very basic and simple and then gets more complicated. And then they start breaking more and more rules. And then at one point, you can't play any faster or more technical, so you start getting more out. And you study the timeline of jazz, and it's basically the same thing. And so my mind was like, oh, well, nobody's going to be able to play any faster, tune any lower. Why don't we just make music that's more and more dissonant and insane? Because I'm a metalhead. I love dark, disgusting music and evil shit. That's what I'm drawn to, like the morbid curiosity of it all. That's what I love about metal music.
Mm.
And so I was like, yeah, let's just make it insane. Why not? Let's push it. Let's see what we can do. And so we've written some pretty ridiculous tracks.
Yeah, you certainly have. Tell me about the experience of being someone into that music as a student studying classical music. Like, misunderstood around those parts, or?
No, there was a few of my professors were like, oh yeah, Gorguts, very good. Yeah. And I actually had my mentor in college was this guy named Ulrich Krieger, a German woodwinds player, and he played with Lou Reed's Metal Machine Trio, and he was really talented guy, really loves metal, and he really helped me and pushed me to explore different stuff. And it was a creative experience, and I definitely came out of it like hungry to make shit nasty, and just thinking like, okay, this is I know everything about the black metal from the 90s and the 2000s and all that shit. Like I've listened to so much of it, and it's from a compositional standpoint, it's still relatively conventional and reasonable. There's a format you can usually follow. There's a beat. and let's just push it. Let's explore new territory. I don't think I would have done it without my band and their creative input.
So what are their musical backgrounds like? Are they
Wild,
classical students like yourself as well?
wildly different. No, my bass player Steve Blanco, he's a jazz piano major in college. He's played pretty much, he can play anything, but he's spent about 20 plus years in the New York jazz scene playing jazz piano and keyboards, and then picked up bass like 6 months before he joined the band. And
What is he, a guitarist previously, or
no, so he just picked it up. But that's kind of why he's so savage, is because he plays bass like a keyboard player would, you know?
Right.
And then Kenny is jazz drum major, and he grew up playing Latin music and that whole sort of style, you know, like Latin and jazz and all that stuff. So all of this shit is coming into Imperial and getting cut with, and they also grew up worshiping Rush and shit too. Like they have great musical taste, and they listen to so much stuff, and they turn me on to a lot of stuff. And so it's all just like coming in, and there's no rules in Imperial. You know, we can do anything we want.
So with that lack of rules and those boundaries kind of not necessarily being set in place, how do you decide when a song is done? Like, what's the process like in actually putting together a record?
It's kind of funny, you know, and I think as we progress, we've been putting more and more boundaries on ourselves to just challenge ourselves. And, you know, I said in many interviews, like, if you want to think outside the box, you got to figure out what the box is, you know, because otherwise you can just do anything, right? It's music. So we were like, on the last record, we're like, okay, let's try to keep everything under 5 minutes. It's a challenge, you know? Can we still write good music that we like, but it's under 5 minutes? And let's try to write like more, let's try to lean even more into like that pop formula of like verses and choruses and stuff, because we've already done the most extreme out there shit. What if we tried to stay Imperial and go the other way?
Yeah, I've noticed the new record does feel a little catchier.
Yeah, because we're like, let's challenge ourselves. Let's see if we can do it, you know? And we're not interested in making the same record twice. So let's see how that sounds. And I'm really happy with it. And it's kind of fun, especially playing live, to have like 5 minute songs. Because, you know, when your set list changes, you can go, okay, we'll swap this one. They're both 5 minutes, you know, like, as opposed to like, well, we have 3 8-minute and then 9-minute epics, you know, like how are we going to fit this into a 30-minute set, you know?
Yeah, especially when you're out there being a support band, like you.
Exactly. It's not easy, but it's kind of fun to, you know, we have a sound now. We're a band we are us, you know? So it's cool to say, okay, Imperial Triumphant, let's see what they would sound like if we did this, you know? I think that keeps the things fresh.
It's interesting that you just kind of almost referred to it in the third person or something, then, or like from a different, like that, how it, like you are Imperial Triumphant, but you just said, how would they sound if they did this?
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, it's only one aspect of my life.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
Just thinking of Apollo externally almost.
Yeah. Well, it's a creative project, you know? And yeah, exactly. I think you can think about it like that, I guess. I don't know. I think each record needs to be able to exist on its own. And, you know, I hope people like it. It's super validating when they do like it, obviously. You know, there's a lot of people who say, like, I don't write music for other people. It's like, dude, then why'd you release it?
Yeah, don't record it then.
Don't record it. Just play it for yourself in your room. Like, obviously you give a shit what other people think, you know, and obviously people want you want people to like it. I mean, actually, that's not true. I know some bands that are like,
yeah, fuck you.
We want
you
to hate it. There's some New York bands that are so insane and just like they're writing. It seems like they're writing music to annoy people, which is cool. Whatever, you know.
But even a band like Portal,
The greatest band of all time.
I absolutely love watching them live, and they're incredible, but it's a very fucking harsh and hard experience to sit there and enjoy a record. Someone once told me that Portal is a band not to be enjoyed, but to be experienced.
Sure. I think it's, well, I would say this though, there's a way to present it.
Mm.
And I think if Portal came out not in their costumes, it would be easily much harder to enjoy the music.
Sure.
Somehow they can Trojan horse this insane, harsh music through this visual aspect, and it almost becomes like a score. Do you know what I mean? Like there's like a film aspect almost to it. And I think that, you know, it's theater, it's a performance, it's a spectacle. And I think I really, really appreciate bands that go that extra mile to develop that. And I know for certain that we wouldn't be as popular if we didn't have the whole masks. So in that regard, yeah, for sure it's a gimmick. But it's like a cool gimmick, you know?
Have you ever played a show without the masks?
In the first few years of the band's existence, yeah, we did some touring with no masks. It was fine. No, you know, no problems there, but
Probably didn't sell as much merch.
no, not at all, dude. We were like, 30 people came. Pretty good show.
Yeah.
You know? But like, I don't know. It just, the whole mask thing came about pretty organically, and there weren't that many mask bands back then. So it felt like an original idea. And I like that our masks aren't really like, they're not really scary masks.
No.
The scariness comes from just sort of the blank expression that's being conveyed while we're doing all this insane music. You know, just some guy like, that's fucking weird, dude.
Is it a punishing experience playing and sweating through those things?
It sucks. I mean, for sure, but whatever. It's kind of cozy.
Yes, you
You know, you get in there.
enjoy it on some level.
Imagine anyone watching or listening to this, like put your hands over your face like this, and then imagine like this is the POV. Do you know what I mean? Like you have no peripheral vision. You can't see your guitar, and you're just like, you're locked in. But you know, like every photo of you is going to look sick. No embarrassing faces. Anything goes wrong, nobody knows because they can't see me going, fuck. You know, like, so it's kind of, it's cool.
Do the masks have their own road case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And I bring them on the plane. I'm not letting anyone lose that. If I lose a guitar, I can get another guitar, you know?
Are they made out of metal or?
No, the old ones were, I have no idea what they're made of. They're like some sort of polymer material.
Some kind of epoxy resin.
Something. I don't know. But the old ones, we gold leafed ourselves. And that was really cool because they were taking like the sweat from the show and oxidizing and turning like green, like around like the lips and the nose and the eyes. And the new ones now, made by Lonnie, got to give a shout out to him. He's great. They're gold plated.
Nice.
So a little heavier, but they're sick.
Who's Lonnie? Sorry, the
Lonnie.
designer.
I don't know his name. His last name. Lonnie. Look up Lonnie Mask. He does our masks, and he does Sleep Tokens masks, and he's just big talent. And I think it's actually we had this woman Alexandra design them. It's kind of funny actually. I think she was just a fan who did some fan art and posted it online, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. This person seems like they have a lot of creativity. So I reached out to her and I said, would you be interested in designing a mask? Originally it was for like the guest mask, like one that we would sell to fans. And she knocked it out of the park. And I was like, oh, maybe she'd be interested in designing new masks. Let's see what she can do. Seems like a creative person. And so that we got these designs made up, and she did like 10 different versions for each of us, and we each picked which one we wanted. Of course, like me, I picked the most obnoxious one with like the most bells and whistles and shit everywhere. You know, I look like a goddamn chandelier now, which I think is sweet, but of
Mm.
course it's a huge pain in the ass to carry around. And then Lonnie made them.
So you sell masks at the merch desk?
No, not at the merch desk. We sell them online.
Right.
Because they're a bit too like the case of like the box and everything. It's a little too it get fucked up by touring with that sort of thing. But they're cool.
What about the badges? You sell those?
Oh no. These are only available if you
you're
join
in
our
that's right.
Patreon.
Yeah.
But I mean, essentially like $5 to join the Patreon and then you get it for free, you know?
So how long have you been running a Patreon, and
About like 2 years.
what spurred that decision?
I can't remember. I think it was someone else was doing it, or it just seemed like an interesting way to connect with fans, develop a little bit of, a passive income revenue stream and something to do, I guess, like another avenue to present yourself. And I think we try to create it like this, this like inner circle, I guess. We call it the Excelsior Society. Excelsior is like the state motto of New York.
Mm.
And so, yeah, we had it for 2 years, and it's and there's a little Discord, people can chirp, and people get, people really talk on there, and it's pretty cool that it's a community connecting people through Imperial Triumphant. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah.
You were talking about creating a bit of a side income.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a ton of money,
of
but
course it wouldn't be.
It helps us, pay for our studio fees because we have a rehearsal studio that we work in, that helps us with that or whatever. Like,
Do you guys live off Imperial Triumphant at this point, or are you?
Not so much. I think it does help though. Like, it's not like a passion project. It's like we go out on the road, we're gonna work hard and try to fill up the bank account.
But you still need part-time jobs when you get home?
Yeah, I'm teaching guitar lessons privately, and I've kind of like been killing it lately. I'm not gonna lie, like I got in with like one kid who's like 10, like prodigy monster. I mean, he's gonna be better than me in 2 years. And then his mom really liked me, and so she started talking to all the other moms at the school. And then the next thing you know, I'm teaching like 5-6 kids, and they're all super cool, and they're all like, I don't know. I enjoy teaching them. It's cool to try to inspire and find people. See kids like fall in love with music or instruments and stuff. So I kind of like it. And
so I take it you're not really teaching beginners at all.
Oh no, I am, dude.
Huh?
I'm teaching people G chords. I'm teaching them, beginner scales. Everyone knows Ode to Joy. I have more patience than I thought.
Mm.
It's fine though, I don't mind. It's a good gig to have when you're not on the road, and it's flexible,
Yeah.
I told all the moms, I'm like, look, I'm going on tour. I'll be back in a month, and they're like, we got summer break. We'll see you in August or September,
Have you had any Imperial Triumphant fans as students yet?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think we've all actually taught fans, guitar, bass, drums, or whatever. Like, no, yeah, of course. And that's always kind of interesting because they're like curious about the music, like that we make, and that's cool as well to see people that are inspired by your music also play music. I think that's what it's all about.
So you're obviously a lifelong student of music. Are you one of those guys that still, even though you're a professional now, still gets lessons or occasional sessions with
I haven't taken a lesson
guys
in a
who
while.
are like even more pro than you?
I mean, dude, there's about 1 billion guys more pro than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took I think the last lesson I took was with Dave Davidson from Revocation.
Sick cunt.
Yeah, he's great. And I only took 2 lessons with him, but I got so much out of it. I literally like after those 2 lessons, I went home and I wrote that song, Transmission to Mercury. It just like came out of me from just working with him. So I think, yeah, of course it's great to learn. And I also am teaching myself like whenever I need to know something, you know? So like, and that's a dumb statement, but like, for example, right now I'm thinking like, I want to learn slide guitar. I can play it, but I want to get good so that I can bring that into black metal and death metal, because nobody does that.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe there's something there. Maybe it's going to sound like shit, but maybe there's something cool that I can do.
So you're just on YouTube?
Yeah.
Googling slide guitar tutorials or whatever?
I'm listening to, really like Blind Willie Johnson. He's my favorite slide player. He's like old blues, Delta blues cat from the 30s. His shit is like, that's some real goth shit. You know what I mean? That's dark. And so I'm just like trying to learn his songs. And I figure like I got to get good first and then I can apply it to. But anytime my drummer, Kenny Grahowski, writes a song for Imperial, it's like I have to learn. I can't just play it, is because he writes really hard shit.
Right. So
I have to practice.
When you were talking about writing and all three of you writing, I sort of had interpreted that more as everyone on their own instruments, but everyone's doing a bit of each instrument.
There's no rules.
Yep.
You know, sometimes we'll be in the studio and we'll just be jamming on an idea that's based on like something. You know, Chernobyl Blues was like, it'll be the most loosely based 12-bar blues concept of all time. And we're going to under-rehearse it so that when we go in the studio, it's super organic and we haven't thought too much about it.
Yeah.
And then Kenny Grahowski or Steve Blanco or myself will write every single note of a song and come in with sheet music and present it to the band, you know. And then obviously they get tinkered with a little bit, but like, yeah, there's no right or wrong way to write one of our songs.
Does it ever feel limiting having to present all of this? Like it's just only the three instruments?
Well, we don't only do three instruments.
Yeah, but I mean in a live setting? Or
no. I think, I mean, we have a little playback pedal. So if we want to put some choir or whatever, we'll put it in. Obviously, we don't have tracks. So we got to play along to it.
Yep.
We got to lock in. That takes a little bit of work. But, you know, I don't know. I think, I'll give you a great example. We went to go see Atheist play in Sydney the day before we played. And there was this opening band. I'm so ashamed that I can't remember their name. I think they were a local band, death metal band. Sounded very similar to Suffocation.
Slaughter Cult, maybe?
No.
Anoxia?
That's them, dude. And they had one guitar player. One guitar, one bass, one vocals, one drums. Sounded great. I think oftentimes with this kind of extreme music, two guitars can start to make shit sound a little muddy. I don't know. Yeah, I thought they sounded really good. There was no point where I was like, I can't hear this instrument. Mm. And it was just one guitar player. He was ripping it. He was killing it. So I think for us, the power trio, you know, it's worked for pretty much a lot of famous bands, you know.
That's true.
Rush, The Who, Hendrix, Imperial Triumphant, you know, pretty much all the same.
That's the very clear lineage of legendary rock and roll, right?
Those are the four Mount Rushmore bands, right?
So let's talk about some of the collaborators, guests you had on Goldstar. Wasn't the first time you worked with Thomas Harker from Sugar?
Yeah, that was funny, man.
Tell us about that relationship and how it formed and how it, you know, evolved across multiple records of collaboration.
I think he knows Kenny. I think they either met through drums or also Thomas's wife was in a band with Kenny back in the day because she's from New York. And I think it was just kind of like he came to a couple shows and I remember freaking out, being like, fuck, he's gonna know. he's gonna
see right through me.
Yeah, he's gonna know how sloppy I am. No. No, but he's a really nice guy and he likes our music, which is obviously so validating. And he was on the last he was on Alphaville. And then we just were in the studio for only 5 days. That's all we had for this Goldstar record. And Kenny was like, I think Thomas is in town. I was like, call him up, see if he wants to come to the studio. And he just showed up and we were like, great, let's get him on, like, and we had him do vocals because like he does spoken word for Meshuggah as well, but I don't know. I think
he writes Meshuggah's lyrics too, right?
I think so. I think it's kind of fun, to have him like, all right, let's have you do something that's not the Meshuggah thing, because he already does that in his band. Like, I think he probably also enjoyed it a bit more to do something a little different.
So did he? Was it just vocals he did on the new record?
Yep, just vocals.
Yep.
Didn't play any drums.
And then you had Dave Lombardo on one of the same tracks.
Who? Oh, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, bro. Yeah, fucking that's the craziest shit of all time.
Yeah.
Dude, Dave Lombardo is like, we met him at a festival like 2 years ago. He was watching a side stage and I was like, fuck. Oh my God. And like the crowd was like a little stiff and I didn't give a fuck. I was like, Steve. Fuck. I didn't say it, but in my mind, I was like, Dave Lombardo's over there. Like,
doesn't matter that we're not killing it with this crowd.
No, I don't give a fuck.
Dave Lombardo's watching us.
He's enjoying it. That's all I care about. And he was like, afterward, he's such a nice guy, I don't know if you ever met him. He's like, that was really inspiring. And I go, no. I'm Zach, you're Dave. Like, you inspire me, man. And so, we just asked him, like last year, whatever, like, would you be interested in ripping a drum solo? Because he's got a Latin background in drumming, and we put this, Brazilian maraca to rhythm, and we're just like, let's get Dave to rip over it, Let's see if he's in. And then he just knocked it out of the park as expected.
So sick.
Yeah, it's out of control. I can't believe that we got him, and that I love that track, and it's so cool, and that we, I feel like when it comes to guests for us, it's important that it benefits the song, and that it's not just about getting a famous person's name on the track.
Yeah, quite clearly, because there's a couple of names on the record as collaborators that I don't believe I've ever seen before in my life.
Yeah, it's about getting people that are just talented that are going to add to this song.
So who are those other names that I can't recall?
Well, the guy who sung the Goldstar jingle is named R.K. Halverson, and he also did the Atomic Age jingle in the beginning, Barbershop Quartet. Yoshiko Ohara is this Japanese vocalist we've worked with forever, and she's just big talent. Just crushes it. Just insane vocals, and something that...
What genre is she usually active in?
She was in that band Bloody Panda back in the day, and now I saw her when she was living in New York just doing like solo vocal shit where she would just get a loop pedal going and just build these sonic landscapes that were terrifying. And she would just sit with her back to the crowd, long black hair like the girl from The Ring, just like really intimidating. And she's on every album, And then we got a lot of the guys from the Swarming Opulence, quintet, doing like trombone and trumpet and all those guys, because it's like they're New York guys that we trust are going to knock it out of the park, and they do.
And you've got brass on basically every record at this point, right?
Something like that, yeah. I don't know. It's something about brass is kind of sick. Works really well in metal, and it's really it's also pretty New York.
Yeah, I grew up as a trumpet player, and
really,
and never I even had the desire to try and incorporate that into metal, but it definitely gave me the ability to control my lungs and scream well.
It's hard, dude. Trumpets. I used to play trombone in high school, and I just would pass out.
Was that your first instrument?
No, but it was like we had to everyone had to choose an instrument.
Yep.
And there was no guitar available, so I picked trombone.
Yeah, I think I wanted saxophone originally, and all the other kids' parents who were more assertive got that, and I was stuck with the trumpet.
Trumpet's tough, dude. Yeah. It's tough. But it sounds great. And even the woodwind stuff, we've put some, pretty savage woodwind players. We got my old mentor, Ulrich Krieger, on a couple tracks. We've got this guy Kenny G on a few tracks.
Just this guy, Kenny G.
Some guy, he was shredding. We got his son also shredding, Max Gorlick, unbelievable player. And yeah, it's kind of fun to invite people into our world.
Are there any sort of names that come to mind if you're thinking of like bucket list collaborations?
The bucket list, the top of the list of like cats that are still alive.
Yeah.
Herbie Hancock, for sure. The only caveat is everyone that we've worked with, we know. And nobody knows Herbie Hancock. You know, like we met Dave Lombardo. We know Thomas Hawk. Like we've, you know, so it's not like cold.
So you probably wouldn't be reaching out to Herbie Hancock's management.
I mean, we could. I don't think it's going to work out.
Yep.
I don't know. I got to find the 6 degrees of separation there because I would love to make that happen. I mean, he's the king. I would love to work with him. And there's a few other guys that we're thinking about for the next record.
So you're thinking about the next record already?
Of course, bro.
Yeah, like, I mean,
why do you think I'm learning slide guitar, man?
You're pretty prolific. It's like every 2 to 3 years there's a new record, which, I mean, for a band that sounds, or at least appears to be as complicated and as thought out as Imperial Triumphant, that's seems like a lot of pressure to put yourself under.
Not really, because keep in mind, everyone in the band writes.
Yep.
So I really only have to write 1/3 of an album to fill up an album, technically. You know what I mean?
What about the vocals and lyrics? Is that a shared responsibility too?
It's become a bit, yeah. Steve, our bass player, he started writing a lot of lyrics and turns out he's pretty good at it. So he contributes some lyrics and that's kind of cool too because then they don't get stagnant with me just kind of repeating the same shit. Or, you know, I try to like mix up and like try to write in different perspectives, like second person, third person, stuff like that. Or, you know, just try to mix up the way that the lyrics are presented. I've sung in like 3 different other languages just because, like, again, you can't understand what I'm saying, but the textures and the quality sounds cool.
Can you actually fluently speak 3 other languages, or you were just doing that just to have some fun?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We have 3 songs in Russian, and my Russian is in the toilet now. I used to be okay, but like it's a, you know, it's not a language you're going to really speak that much. So if you have no one to talk to, it's just going to die. My next goal is I want to learn Spanish because in the United States it's pretty useful.
Mm.
No reason, and so like that's my goal. I want to learn Spanish.
Nice,
but I don't know if I would put it on a song. It doesn't have the same quality.
Yeah, it might not be harsh enough for
exactly.
Imperial.
Latin, German, Russian, it sounds harsh. It's got a lot of like consonants and it's really in a metal context, I think it sounds really good. But Spanish, it's more for just getting around.
Try not to giggle, just thinking, trying to like, just envisioning someone being like, Senor Espanita.
Exactly, dude.
Sí.
Well, they call it a romantic language, right? Yeah. And like, that doesn't sound that metal. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my goal. 2025, I'm gonna learn Spanish.
Nice. So Dark Mofo tomorrow, then you're off to do some more shows. What else is coming up for the rest of the year for Imperial Triumphant?
Glad you asked. We've got Friday, New Zealand debut. Then we've got Taipei debut. Then we've got 4 shows in China: Chengdu, Xi'an, Shanghai, Beijing. Then dip on down to Bangkok, Thailand. Then fly on over to Tokyo, where we will be performing with Yoshiko Ohara for the first time ever, which will be sick.
So it's just a complete tour of first times.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of Imperial, is that like because of the way we play we can just be like, hey, Yoshiko, do you want to play a couple songs with us? Yeah, sure. Okay, come on up. We don't have to stress about, is she going to like, be able to get the in-ears, whatever that shit, like, and we've done this a lot, like on tours where like we know someone in Paris, we have like an accordion player come out and shred or whatever. Like, someone, we were in Poland and some girl was playing baritone sax and she just came out and ripped the gnarliest solo. And all we have to do is just extend a part so that she can solo over it. Like, that's cool. That's music to me,
Any plans like that for tomorrow night?
No.
Just ripping it?
Just
with
survive.
You three? Yep.
Although, yeah, I'm just excited. I'm excited. It seems like a really, really great festival, and we're glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, it truly is a special event, and I think Imperial Triumphant is a very, very suitable artist for it. And I'm super excited to catch the show.
Thank you, man.
So thank you so much for doing this podcast and stopping by. Is there anything else you would like to cover or put out there?
We have a ton of other dates in Europe, playing in August, festival season. Then we're going out with Igor as well in October, and we'll be touring all through 2026. So stay up to date on our social medias, follow us, buy our record. But, some guy actually in the airport was like, you guys a band? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, okay, well, what's the best place for someone like me to support the band? What's the best website? And I was like, Ticketmaster, dude. Like, fucking buy our tickets, man. That's the best. So come out to the shows and listen to Goldstar. Hope you enjoy it.
Sick. Thank you so much, Zach.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Music Is My Life. This podcast is self-produced by me, Lochlan Watt. I'd like to thank Audio-Technica Australia for providing the high-quality equipment that has made this possible, as well as Patrick Galvin at Hollowbone Studio for the design. The killer theme music that you are currently hearing was written by the legends TJ Cowgill and Sam Saljuki. Catch you in the next episode.